Yo, and welcome to the EPM show. I'm Blake Bozarth, and this show is designed to give you an unfair career advantage. With that said, this is a very unique episode. I know from talking to many of you in the EPM community, you're interested in this sort of content. And what I'm talking about today is building assets outside of your day job. So it's really important that you have a fruitful career, that you're growing, that you feel fulfilled in that career, that you're growing your income in that career. But I also think it's very important that you are building assets that you own, that you control your own destiny over, that you're building assets outside of your career, outside of the day job. And in this episode, I give you 3 examples for what that can look like. I share a little bit of my personal story. This is a 15-minute episode that I'm sharing with you from another show of mine called Leadership on Purpose. That show's been around for 5 years. And I think it applies to a lot of you in this audience. So it's not an EPM focused episode. It's very much focused on helping folks that are in great careers build assets that they own and control outside of their day job so that they can have more freedom and optionality. So hope you enjoy this episode. If any of this resonates for you, would love to hear from you. So feel free to message me on LinkedIn. Would love to chat. And without further ado, let's jump right into the episode. This is Leadership on Purpose, the show that's designed to help you grow your influence and lead with confidence and with humility. This is a unique solo episode. And in this episode, I'm actually going to share with you a bit more of my personal story that you may not know much about. And I'm going to particularly talk to you about why I think it's really important for you to be prioritizing building assets outside of your day job. And we're going to talk about what that looks like and how you do that. But I'm very passionate about that for you to not just focus on building your career, but to use your career to build up assets that you own. And in this episode, I want to give you 3 examples for how you can do this, how you can build those sort of assets outside of your day job. The quick context on this, you guys may know in my business, CoThrive, I work with companies to help them develop leaders. So we do leadership development programs for companies. It's like mastermind groups inside of a company. And I've done this for almost 5 years now. We also help companies with executive search, so landing the right talent inside their company. And we love that work. What I've found, though, is that the more that I work with young professionals directly in some of that work, the more that people find out about my personal story, the more that they tend to be interested in that personal story. And they're asking questions like, hey, how did you build a portfolio of rental properties? How did you dramatically grow your income while you were working in your day job? How did you layer in a side hustle that was actually really profitable while you were in your day job? And then ultimately, they seem to be the most curious about how did I leave my day job when I was about 30 years old to pursue a new calling? And I don't talk about my personal story a lot, but I'm changing that because I hope that it may inspire you to make some decisions that could alter your trajectory towards what you want out of your life and out of your leadership. And I'm going to share some of that story today. We're going to start with that, and then we're going to get into what does it look like to actually build assets outside of your day job. So if you'll stick with me for a second, I actually want to read a short version of my story. It looks like this. In my early 20s, I really wanted to be successful. I didn't know what that looked like, and I definitely didn't have a clear vision to get there. I landed a solid corporate job, bought a house, rented rooms to my friends. I got good at living well below my means, but still living it up. I traveled the world, hit 25 countries before turning 25. But overall, I was following the typical path. Land a good job, climb the ladder, stock the 401k, one day get married, 30 years later, retire. A few years in, I saved up $100,000 to use towards an elite MBA program. As I was starting applications to some of those hoity-toity schools, I just didn't have peace. My life felt empty. Fun, comfortable, yes, but empty of purpose and unfulfilling. Living for myself, climbing corporate ladder, and ultimately prioritizing the wrong things in my life. Thankfully, I experienced God's grace, and He did a new work in my heart. I recommitted my life to Christ, laid roots in my community, started valuing the things in life that really matter. I soon met my future wife and wasted no time getting married. I pursued wisdom from people who lived a life that I admired. I got serious about the type of family I was building. I retrained my mindset around money and abundance. And that money I saved for the MBA, I used it to develop real world skills and acquire assets, assets that would grow wealth and create freedom for my family. We built a small portfolio of long and short term rentals, established multiple sources of cash flow, and now get to live in our dream home on the lake with our 3 kids in Florida. We get to live counterculturally. We get to invest in our family and the kingdom. We get to travel. We get to do life on our own terms. The short version, I discovered a simple blueprint actually to build wealth steadily, but much quicker than the traditional path without having to be exceptionally smart or risky. I leveraged a select set of tools to execute on that blueprint and reached my first $1 million in net worth by 28 years old. I left the corporate career and business has expanded since then, allowing my family and myself to live life more on our own terms and increase our generosity. Now, let me stop there. And I just want to say that the reason why I'm sharing this is because if there's something in there that resonates for you, from a leadership perspective, even as I look back at myself prior to being able to make that jump, I felt more limited in my impact and in my calling. And it wasn't until I had built up the financial base and outlook and generated enough cash flow that was coming in that I owned, that was independent from my day job. It wasn't until then that I really felt like, hey, I now have this sense of freedom that I can go and take more smart risk. I can launch my own thing. I can launch Leadership on Purpose. I can launch CoThrive. And it just had a massive impact for me. Now, you may never want to leave your day job. And if you're in a job that you really love, then that is incredible. But here's what I do want for you. I want you to still be thinking about what assets can you build outside of your day job? Because if any of the rest of that resonates with you, if you do want a greater sense of freedom for yourself to live life more on your own terms, if you want a greater sense of freedom for your family, and if you want to be able to have a greater impact on the world and bless others more significantly in new ways, then it does matter what and how you're approaching the building of assets. So let me give you 3 quick examples for how you can go about doing this, even in your day job, while you have your day job, how you can build outside of that assets that you own. The first example is focus on your personal brand. Your personal brand is something that you own, and it's something that carries with you no matter where you go. And here's the cool thing. Your current employer, if it's the right employer, they should actually support this. They should love this. Because if you are growing your personal brand, let's say you get more active on LinkedIn and you're representing, let's say you're more active organically in your community and you're networking with other businesses, and it's actually a really good thing for them when you can represent well and when you can grow and amplify the message. It's a really good thing for your company too. But the best part about it is it's a skill and it's an asset that you can build that then carries with you wherever you go. So if you do want to take your talents to another company or another industry, if you have a personal brand and you built that, that translates really well as you transition. And you can get quicker traction because of that. If you ever wanted to launch a side hustle, having a personal brand, knowing how to do that really does help. If you ever wanted to do your own thing, it really helps. That's one asset that I would encourage you to be doing and thinking about is, how am I building my own personal voice and brand? How am I being known, not just inside my company, but outside my company? That's an asset. The second one I want you to think about is the high yield side hustle. So we call it the HYSH. Think of it as part-time entrepreneurship that actually might make sense for you. And there's a lot of different types of side hustles you can do where it's really not worth it. The juice is not worth the squeeze. The high yield side hustle, it is. It's profitable. It's something that may be aligned with your future interest and maybe a skill set that you want to develop more. And here's the cool thing. It might be something, and it should be something that actually makes you sharper and more effective in your current day job. And the beauty of it is that this is a real asset that exists and lives outside of your current day job that you own the source of the cash flows for. There's something so magical, even if it's just $500 a month. There's something so magical about creating that for yourself and you being the owner of the source of that cash flow. So you're not just dependent on your paycheck from your employer, but you've done something else out in the marketplace that allows you to get paid and start making revenue, it's a magical thing. It builds your confidence, but it also it means more when you created your own source of cash flows, especially if it's something that one day you could actually sell. That $500 a month from your side hustle actually is worth a lot more than $500 in your paycheck. Not only because of some of the tax advantages, irrespective of taxes, the same $500 in your paycheck versus your side hustle, it can be worth a lot more coming from your side hustle because you own the source of your cash flows, and it's something that you can scale up potentially, or something that could even be sold or leveraged in another way by someone else. So it has value in and of itself. The third asset example that I want to give you today is, you guessed it from my story, it's a small real estate portfolio. And there's a whole nother vein of ideas like this. You could invest in car washes, you could invest in self-storage, but I really like real estate and doing it on a smaller, more manageable scale, because I think it's something that, again, the average young professional can actually do. And there's easy ways to go about this. There's high risk ways to do real estate, and then there's really low risk ways to do real estate. And you guessed it, I'm a big fan of the low risk real estate investing. But I want you to think about for a second, how much additional freedom would you feel if you had a small portfolio of cash flowing rentals that were throwing you off monthly cash passively and also building you equity on the side? So you're growing your net worth, you're appreciating assets and building equity while also generating passive income. It's an amazing thing in terms of the freedom that it gives you. It allows you to take more smart risk. As I mentioned before in my personal story, it allows you to be a bigger blessing to other people, which I think is huge. And that's where this all comes down to, guys, is you need to know your motivation behind wealth building and asset building. And I hope that it's for a lot more than just materialistic BS. And if you can tell anything from my story, that's a big part of the heart change, was starting to value the things that really matter. And what I've found is that having a great financial stability, but also particularly having assets that are outside of my W-2 paycheck, it was life-changing, truly life-changing. And even if you have no interest in being a full-time entrepreneur, not everyone is meant for that story. If you have a day job that you love, that is phenomenal. I still want you, though, to be thinking about and prioritizing asset building outside of that day job, because it's going to give you a greater sense of freedom. I think it'll make you more effective in your day job, as I mentioned here in this episode. And then 3, I think that you're going to be able to have a bigger impact on the world because of it. And I want that for you. So to close out this episode, if you are interested in any of this, if you're serious, if you want to get serious about building assets outside of your day job, if you want to be serious about growing your net worth for higher purpose, to create freedom for yourself, to create freedom for your family, to be a bigger blessing on others, then here's what you can do. Go to blakebozarth.com. That's just my name, blakebozarth.com. And you can sign up for our free newsletter. It's called the Net Worth Newsletter. And in that newsletter, each week, I'm going to give you one insight to help you do just that. And then you can also find out, I'm also doing the occasional live session for free. And right now, the live session is about low risk REI. So low risk real estate investing, how you can build a small real estate portfolio in today's market without overexposing yourself to risk. And I answer questions live in that session. So if that's something that interests you, make sure you sign up for the newsletter and start getting those updates. And finally, for this podcast, I'm really excited about it because it's all about leading with confidence and humility and helping you grow your influence. And it's not just about career. It's about doing this at home, doing this in your community. And we're going to have more focus on what does it look like to do this even through and with your finances. And in a future episode, I'm actually going to talk about what does it mean when I use this term living and leading counterculturally. What does it actually look like? I'll unpack some of that in a future episode. Oh, and I wanted to say, I love hearing from you personally. So when you reach out on LinkedIn or send me a message through social media, it really means the world to me. So if any of this is resonating with you, do me a favor. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, I would love to hear from you. Let me know what you think about this. I'm in your corner and would love to be a resource for you. So please give me that feedback. It means a lot. It helps keep me going, gets me energized, and just means the world to me. Finally, what do we like to say? If this impacted you in any way that you found valuable, be a river, not a reservoir. Is there anybody else you know who you think might resonate with this and could get value out of this episode? If so, be a river, share it with them, have an impact on somebody else. It means the world to me as well to get that message out to other people. And I appreciate you guys so much. 5 years now, going on 5 years to this show. Yeah, you really are what has made this show possible, and it means so much to me. Thank you. And without further ado, keep leading on purpose. Peace.